The emotions that all of us experience, like anger, fear, anxiety, shame, and sadness, usually go hand in hand with certain behaviors that come naturally for us to do. For example, you may have noticed that when you are feeling depressed, you may want to isolate yourself from other people, and you may not feel like doing anything. When you feel ashamed about something, your natural tendency might be to try to hide from the people around you. Although all of these automatic reactions may feel right at the moment, they are not always the best choice in the situation. If we add an overwhelming intensity to some of these emotions that we are feeling, it is very useful to try to find an alternative coping strategy instead of these automatic reactions. In this exercise, first, we'll help you get familiar with what these automatic behaviors are, and then we'll work on practicing to act the opposite way of your emotional urges. Remember that the end result should be a behavior that would lead to decrease in your overwhelming emotions and a more balanced result to the situation overall. The opposite of your emotional urges. Step 1. What are the opposites? We will work on 4 emotions that are some of the most common ones that can lead to ineffective behaviors: anger, sadness, anxiety, and shame. Take your time and look at the table. For every emotion, there is the respective emotional urge we naturally feel like doing. Then, there is the opposite urge that might be the better alternative we can engage in. Emotion, emotional urge, the opposite urge. Anger, to verbally or physically attack someone, to be polite, more gentle, or nice. Anxiety or fear, to avoid the anxiety-provoking situation, to remain in the anxiety-provoking situation. Sadness, to isolate yourself from others, to remain in the anxiety-provoking situation and socialize. Shame, to hide from people or to avoid them, to approach others and share your thoughts if appropriate. Step 2. Emotion and effectiveness of the emotional urge. In this step, there are 2 important things you should keep in mind. First, when you find yourself in a situation where you experience overwhelming emotions, try to identify what it is that you are feeling. Second, think about whether expressing your natural emotional urge is useful and effective in the situation you are in, or perhaps not. For example, maybe you are feeling very angry with your colleague and you really feel like arguing with her. Nevertheless, it is probably not the best solution to just be verbally aggressive because you might damage your relationship with your colleague and not solve anything. If after some consideration you've reached the conclusion that your primary emotional urge is probably not the most effective choice, then move on to the next step. Step 3, act opposite. Try to do the opposite action until your emotion eventually transforms into something else. For example, it is not that overwhelming anymore, or it changes in another emotion. At the beginning, you may feel like this is not natural for you and that you would rather do something else. For example, if you're anxious about a presentation you have, you may really feel like avoiding it altogether. Remember that you are getting out of your comfort zone and that even though this may feel a little uncomfortable, it is worth it if it helps you regulate your overwhelming emotion. Step 4, repeat. As with the other skills we've been working on, it may take some time for your initial overwhelming emotion to change. Give this opposite behavior a chance and see what happens. Try to repeat the action until you reach a different emotional or external result. Check your wise mind. Does this new behavior feel right when you take all the facts into consideration? Write down how this exercise went for you in the worksheet provided. Well done! You just completed the exercise, the opposite of your emotional urges. See you in the next video.